night sky will never be enough, never be enough. Towers of gold are still too little. These hands could hold the world, but it'll never be enough, never be enough for me. Never, 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 never for me, for me. Never enough, never, never, never enough, never, never, never enough for me, for me, for me. For me.
Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for. You've been searching in the dark, your sweat soaking through the floor. And buried in your bones, there's an ache that you can't ignore. Taking your breath, stealing your mind, and all that was real is left behind. Don't fight it, it's coming for you, running at you. It's only this moment, don't care what comes after. Your fever dream, can't you see, getting closer. Just surrender, cause you feel the feeling taking over. It's fire, it's freedom, it's flooding open. It's the preacher and the pulpit and your blind devotion. There's something breaking at the brink of every wall that's holding all that you know. So tell me, do you wanna go where it's covered in all the colored lights, where the runaways are running the night? Impossible comes true, it's taking over you. This is the greatest show. We light it up, we won't come down, and the sun can't stop us now. Watching it come true, it's taking over you. This is the greatest show. Colossal we come, these renegades in the ring, where the lost get found and we crown them the circus kings. Don't fight it, it's coming for you, running at you. It's only this moment, don't care what comes after. It's blinding, outshining anything that you know. Just surrender, cause you're coming and you wanna go where it's covered in all the colored lights, where the runaways are running the night. Impossible comes true, intoxicating you. This is the greatest show. We light it up, we won't come down, and the sun can't stop us now. Watching it come true, it's taking over you. This is the greatest show. Where it's covered in all the colored lights, where the runaways are running the night. Impossible comes true, it's taking over you. This is the greatest show. We light it up, we won't come down, and the walls can't stop us now. Watching it come true, it's taking over you. This is the greatest show. This is the greatest show.
Ceremonial Witch, teaching you how to learn about the inner world. Come on. Anyways, have a great fucking day.
Did you know that before winter, millions of birds and insects in the most extreme latitudes fly not towards the equator, but towards the poles? And that those animals, when given tracking devices, lose their tracking signal? Did you know that mosquitoes in the northernmost landmass, Greenland, are so large and aggressive they can take out a caribou calf? And did you know that explorers at the South Pole have reported that after a certain latitude, the sub-zero temperatures suddenly rise dramatically, yielding green, iceless land areas and lakes? This strange evidence of warmer regions all indicate that the North and South Pole may hold secrets beyond the idea of Santa Claus. In fact, they support a theory about Earth that some of the most celebrated geologists and astronomers have believed, that Earth is a spherical, spacious planetary body with enormous, continent-sized caverns deep within it, and large entrances miles across at the North and South Pole. They say inner Earth has water, oceans, and luminosity, and that it sustains not only plants and animals, but intelligent life. If this sounds like heresy, lay aside what you think you know, and we'll show you the evidence, the scientists, the legends, and testimonies behind the inner Earth theory, so that you can see why it may be the most game-changing information ever concealed from common knowledge. That miles beneath your feet are ideal conditions for a life-sustaining and inhabitable inner Earth. Who wasn't taught that gravity is what makes an apple fall? We've believed this for roughly 300 or 400 years, since Isaac Newton defined it and its relationship to mass. Well, in 2017, two neutron stars collided and proved, indeed, it's not a force. It's actually a distortion in space-time. According to Einstein, an apple falls from a tree because the apple's responding to a curvature of space-time caused by the planet's mass. There's no attractive force called gravity. Fair to say that's a massive paradigm shift. So, if we were wrong about gravity, could we be wrong about other theories, particularly those that involve it? How do we measure Earth's mass? Today, the Cavendish experiment measures the mass of one object based on its tug to another. But even before the redefining of gravity, this theory had flaws. The gravitational conditions in a science lab are nothing like conditions in space. The theory assumes that each particle exerts a fixed force upon all others, ruling out the very real possibility that particles near the surface of a planet might exert a force greater than those deep within it. So, if gravity is no longer a valid theory, and it's used to determine mass, and the mass of the Earth is overstated, then it follows that the masses of all other planets in the solar system are also overstated. If the Earth is cavernous or hollow, then so too is every other planet in the solar system. Some of the greatest scientific minds have challenged the theory of a dense Earth. Around the same time as Newton, geophysicist, mathematician, and astronomer Edmund Halley, who predicted the orbit of his comet, said the magnetic anomalies of the Earth could only be the result of a different composition. He believed that beneath the Earth's crust were two thick concentric shells. According to their legend, these colonists were lured. Some of the greatest scientific minds have challenged the theory of a dense Earth. Around the same time as Newton, geophysicist, mathematician, and astronomer Edmund Halley, who predicted the orbit of his comet, said the magnetic anomalies of the Earth could only be the result of a different composition. He believed that beneath the Earth's crust were two thick concentric shells, and that each region potentially had its own atmosphere, luminosity, and was possibly even inhabited. If this idea sounds crazy, check out this NASA video taken showing Saturn's North Pole with the exact counter-rotating fields that Halley described. And in this rare NASA video of Jupiter's pole, you can count up to 15 of these counter-rotating cylinders. Halley also speculated that the poles would have access into Earth, and that the aurora borealis was the result of light emanating from this counter-rotation, exactly as it does in the videos of these other planets. Watch this NASA video closely, and you'll see that the Australis borealis, appears to be clearly emanating from a dark point on the planet. If you overlay a map on the planet, it's exactly at the point of the South Pole. 100 years later, Swiss mathematician and physicist Leonard Euler, who's still considered one of the greatest mathematicians of all time, also proposed that Earth was completely hollow with a central sun in the center, similar to what Halley proposed, agreeing with Halley that holes at the North and South Pole would provide access to it. Germany's most influential Gauss in the early 1800s. Mathematician Johann Carl Friedrich Gauss in the early 1800s stated, "All of our Earth's history, physics, and geography could be explained by Earth being a hollow planet with entrances at the poles." Naturally, satellite images of the poles are going to disprove this craziness, right? Of the South Pole. 100 years later, Swiss mathematician and physicist Leonard Euler, who's still considered one of the greatest mathematicians of all time, also proposed that Earth was completely hollow with a central sun in the center, similar to what Halley proposed, agreeing with Halley that holes at the North and South Pole would provide access to it. Germany's most influential mathematician, Johann Carl Friedrich Gauss, in the early 1800s, stated, "All of our Earth's history, physics, and geography could be explained by Earth being a hollow planet with entrances at the poles." Naturally, satellite images of the poles are going to disprove this craziness, right? Well, there's a problem. NASA's images and videos of poles are rare. They're hard to find. But when they are revealed, they often have cloud cover, ice cover, or questionable anomalies, like simply being blotted out. Stranger still, no planes or satellites are permitted to come within a certain distance of the poles. Well, in November 1968, a satellite photo of the North Pole was released. It showed a large polar opening in absence of cloud cover. Now, it's possible a trick of time-based photography created this illusion, but satellite images since then showing serious anomalies do raise questions, particularly the one from Russian space station Mir in 1987, showing light emanating in a very mysterious fashion. And then there are other NASA images of the planets: Venus, Jupiter, the various moons, all showing strange qualities or blotted out poles. In fact, how's it possible to have perfectly hexagonal angles on Saturn? Why do these images from space consistently have their poles concealed? Like this blotted one of Jupiter, where you can actually see light emanating from the center. Was Edgar Allan Poe correct when he said, "Sometimes the best hiding place is the one that's in plain sight"? Another anomaly in measuring Earth's mass happens when we study earthquakes. Since the early 1900s, seismograph readings have proved that Earth does have some density, but not without raising even more questions. You see, when an earthquake occurs, seismic waves are measurable as they spread, but then the signals disappear entirely, only to reappear further on. These shadow zones are believed to be the result of waves hitting a molten core, and there are complicated mathematics theorizing why. But even then, there are many inconsistencies with seismograph readings. It's not a tidy science. So with all things considered, could it be that the simplest solution is simply the accurate one? Is it possible the waves reverberate within a belt-like zone but disappear into very large caverns or underground seas, miles beneath the Earth's outer crust? Would that just be too simple an explanation? If the possibility of inner oceans sounds strange, take note. The first of the deepest holes ever drilled into Earth was in Russia, beginning in 1970. It was called the Kola Super Deep Borehole, and it took 20 years to make. As is often the case when humans venture into the unknown, Kola left a few scientific theories in ruin. They discovered unprecedented heat, fossils at depths 8 miles down, and the surprising result? Water, at far deeper depths than had previously been assumed. Then, in 2014, a team of 20 U.S. geophysicists using seismic readings discovered large bodies of water 400 miles into the Earth. They concluded that the mantle transition zone, a rock layer between 400 and 700 kilometers below the Earth's surface, could hold 3 times the amount of water in the world's oceans. One of the team's scientists said, "This is direct evidence supporting the hypothesis that the deep Earth holds a lot of water." Modern science can't confirm the physical structure of Earth's interior as a fact, and there are many questions about the existing theory. For example, a forming planet has zero gravity in its center, so its mass accumulates where gravitational and centrifugal forces are balanced, creating a sphere with openings at the top and bottom, like a hurricane of matter in space, not as a solid body. This energetic flow, the torus, is a self-organizing system in nature where energy expands and returns to itself. We see it every day in an orange, a whirlpool, a tornado. It's in the atom, the galaxy. None of these is a dense system. So, let's consider another possibility. Over millions of years, the planet has succumbed to a combination of forces responsible for shaping it. Heating, cooling, convection, carving by lava, running water, and glaciers, but also centrifugal forces, which create inner spaces in a mass revolving on an axis. These natural forces could make a planet more like a honeycomb or Swiss cheese than a perfectly solid rock. So current models of Earth's interior are not fact, they're theories. In the meantime, look at the facts you do know. Every continent has extensive cavernous networks, like Sam Dung Cave in Vietnam, with its jungles, rivers, and space to fit a 40-story skyscraper. And there's Mammoth Cave in Kentucky, USA, which is even longer than the 400 miles of it which have so far been explored. Who's to say these spectacular naturally occurring spaces are not found at deeper depths? According to laws of physics, empty spaces are unnatural in nature. So caves have their own ecosystems and water bodies, plant life, animal life. If they extend deep into the earth, life will still fill it. Even the most unhospitable depths of the ocean have life forms and creatures that have adapted to the darkness by creating their own luminosity. As Aristotle said, nature abhors a vacuum. Wherever there is a void, the universe seeks to fill it. So if enormous caverns like those we already know of continue on to reach deep into the earth, what then could be residing in the space miles beneath our feet? Since we're prohibited from flying over or seeing the poles, and we're prohibited from exploring caves without permits or assigned guides, how might we know what exists in inner Earth? Interestingly enough, many of the accounts of this strange, unique land have been told by very respected, credible people. But first, let's look at history. Almost every ancient culture shares legends about interactions with subterranean races. Clearly, some of these are considered to be purgatory for sinners, attempts to deter people from wrongdoing. But other legends, those about Agartha, with its cities Shambhala and Potala, have striking resemblances, no matter which continent they originate from. In all legends, these civilizations tell of two beings, very tall giants or very advanced reptilian races. The word Agartha is of Buddhist origin. True Buddhists fervently believe in this subterranean empire, which they say has millions of inhabitants and many cities, including the capital, Shambhala, where a supreme ruler dwells. They believe the Dalai Lama is his terrestrial representative, and his messages are transmitted to the lamas in Tibet. They believe that they've been there for thousands of years, sheltering humanity since the terrestrial cataclysms. The Russian artist, philosopher and explorer Nicholas Roerich published that a Tibetan Lama revealed the capital of Tibet was connected by a tunnel with Shambhala, the heart of the subterranean empire of Agartha, and that the entrance of this tunnel was guarded by lamas who were sworn to keep its actual whereabouts a secret from outsiders. Those who are led through this underground passage travel deep into earth through areas where it becomes so narrow it can be difficult to pass through. According to Tibetans, Shambhala is a physical place, but one that also has an ethereal nature, given its location inside this holistic, evolving planet. Given our understanding of how matter can be warped in space and time by mass, this could make sense. One Gnostic scholar explains the underworld as a plane between spirit and our reality, an area where the ethers of spirit become nature, and nature returns back to spirit, making it both a physical and an apparitional realm. In the ancient epic poem, the Mahabharata, the Hindus also spoke of Aryavarta, the abode of the excellent ones, which was said to be ruled by a supernal race, the Nagas, a half-human, half-reptilian species depicted with jeweled hoods that light their realm. It's said the Nagas possessed cutting-edge technology and had an unpredictable and sometimes merciless nature, known to abduct and torture humans, while at other times influencing positive events on Earth. It's also said they inhabited Patala. Perhaps it's not coincidence, then, that the name of the palace where the lamas guarded the tunnel entrances is the Potala Palace. It also raises questions about the motivation the Chinese government had when they violently overthrew Tibet's peaceful leaders in the 1950s, in a coup which may have cost up to 1 million Tibetan lives. Another Indian epic, the Ramayana, tells the story of the great avatar Rama, a blue-skinned emissary from Agartha who arrived on an air vehicle. These air vehicles were called Vimanas, which means car or chariot of the gods, carrying its occupant through the air. Strangely, flying airships have remained a consistent part of all Inner Earth stories, every one of them. In Africa, a similar tunnel was believed to connect the secret chambers at the base of the Pyramid of Giza with the subterranean world, by which the pharaohs established contact with the gods of the underworld. Ancient Egyptian deities like Ra, Thoth, Anubis had qualities unlike humans: unique height, skin coloring, eyes, often avian or bird-like heads. Another mystery occurred in 985 AD, when the Viking explorer Eric the Red discovered Greenland. By 1410, there was anywhere from 10,000 to 100,000 Viking colonists on Greenland's shores. That was the last date, however, that any one of the Viking settlers of Greenland was ever seen again. All of their villages were found abandoned, and their disappearance has become one of the largest unsolved mysteries in our recent history. That is, unless you ask the native people of Greenland, the Inuits. According to these Eskimos, the white men swarmed suddenly northwards to a wonderland that the natives had long known about. They called it the land of endless summer, rich with vegetation and game. According to their legend, these colonists were lured to a land of eternal bliss inside the protective womb of the earth. In the 12th century, An unusual story of underworld beings showed up in Suffolk, England, and is still a part of the town's history today. The Children of Woolpit. Reapers in the area one day discovered 2 small children who had skin with a pale green hue and who spoke an unknown language. And though starving, ate only raw beans. The boys soon died, but after many years in declamation, the surviving girl finally explained that she and her brother had come from a subterranean land where the sun never shone, and where the light was more like twilight, saying they'd become lost when they followed their cattle into a cave, eventually emerging onto the bright landscape. In the 1908 book, The Smoky God, Willis George Emerson tells the story of Olaf Jensen's incredible journey to Agartha and the 2 years he spent living there with his father. Jensen and his father were traveling in their small fishing boat in an attempt to find the land beyond the north wind when a windstorm carried them through a polar opening into the interior of the earth. There, they met who he called the Elder Race, friendly, intelligent, lanky 12-foot giants. He said later they were able to grow tall in this unique electrical energy field that was always there inside the earth, and that these giants were able to live up to 800 years. Jensen described the inner world as warm, where it rained once a day and was filled with highly charged electrical air. There's a density to the atmosphere, he said, and this is what he believes led to the immense vegetation there. The title of the book, Smoky God, refers to the inner world's glowing and smoky sun. Most interesting was his explanation of these fast, noiseless, flying objects on which he rode. He said they had revolving fan-like wheels which destroyed atmospheric pressure, or what he called gravitation, and this force prevented them from falling to one side or the other. After spending 2 years with these beings in Agartha, Olaf and his father attempted to return through the opening. On the journey home, however, his father lost his life when an iceberg destroyed their boat. Jensen was later rescued by some fishermen. But when he shared his incredible story, they placed him in a madhouse for the mentally insane, where, sadly, he remained for 28 years. Not until he was 90 years old did he share the story of his life's journey with Emerson, giving him maps of the interior of the earth, along with the manuscript of his experiences. Around the same time in 1895, the Nobel Prize laureate and Norwegian explorer Dr. Fridtjof Nansen set on an expedition to reach the North Pole. Nansen completely lost his bearings, admitting he couldn't identify the mysterious land which he found, and that lands marked on the map of one of the best-known explorers simply did not exist. He had many unusual things happen, noting that after bitter cold, suddenly the temperature began to rise, and it even became unbearably hot. It was never made clear where Hansen was exactly, but as the expression goes, he was not in Kansas anymore. Deep in the Amazon jungle, the ancient Makushi Indians have remained isolated from advanced civilizations until very recently. They're said to be the guardians of an entrance to inner Earth, and they describe the journey and the beings in vivid detail. They say for 15 days you must traverse through caverns until balls of bright light and glowing discs appear inside the earth. There, a civilization of very tall beings, 12 to 15 feet, live inside a lush ecosystem of vegetation. This primitive culture also describes how they encounter molten rock at deep depths. Without any modern education, how could they know such detail unless there was some truth to their story? After the First World War, a German occultist group founded the Thule Society to pursue paranormal sciences. They publicized the Tibetan legends about openings into the earth, and they became obsessed with finding these entrances. with German emissaries even visiting Tibet. This group later endorsed what became the Nazis. As the Third Reich grew in military superiority and geographical dominance, Hitler ordered a team of researchers to find an inner Earth opening in Antarctica. Later, a German U-boat commanded by Heinrich Broden claimed that they had reached the interior of the Earth and even stated that they didn't want to come back, adding, "The Earth is, in fact, hollow." A diagram of Agartha was then drawn by a German scientist in 1935 in corroboration with the U-boat navigator. These stories are backed up by maps made for the National Geographic Society in 1966 by the famous cartographer Henrik Behren. In that map, Antarctica can be observed without its thick layer of ice. But the most interesting detail on the map are the underwater passageways spanning across the entire continent, which appear to converge at the exact location identified as the opening into inner Earth. And then there's the disturbing part of this legend, that Hitler and many of his minions escaped Germany in the closing days of World War II and fled to Antarctica, where they escaped into the Earth's interior. For it was after the war the Allies discovered that more than 2,000 scientists from Germany and Italy, along with almost 1 million people, had vanished. According to the Hollow Earth Research Society in Canada, this entire culture still resides there. Of course, they were not all Nazis, but for those guilty of heinous war crimes, a higher power will have to administer justice. No investigation of inner Earth is complete without the unique story relayed by the pioneering American aviator Admiral Richard Byrd Jr., who led numerous expeditions to both poles and wrote detailed logs about his journeys. What stands out about Byrd's story, however, was the personal diary his son published following his death. In this document, he gives vivid details about his expedition to the North Pole in 1947, the geographical anomalies he witnessed, which he couldn't make sense of, being met by unfamiliar flying craft, which assumed control of his plane, and then literally being taken to their leader, the master of the inner Earth civilization. Before you write this story off, it's important to understand the man who wrote it, and to examine his behavior while he was alive. Richard Byrd was one of the most highly decorated officers in military history. Among these was the Medal of Honor, the highest medal given by the United States for valor. He fought for the Allies in both World Wars and led 2 huge military expeditions to Antarctica following World War II. He was an efficient, concise leader, and every trip he made, he kept detailed logs of just facts. He was not a poet or a storyteller. The idea a man of this rank and stature would fabricate stories is unimaginable. You only need to see Byrd in his documentaries or read his writings to see that he sought to live with integrity, that he understood the responsibility of his words and choices on the lives of those reporting to him and the nation that he served. So when Byrd returned from his travels and was interviewed on the Longines Chronicles on live TV in 1954, the hyperbolic statements he made were, and still are, somewhat confusing and mysterious. He said things like, "I'd like to see the land beyond the pole." Now, he didn't say to, around, or near it. He called it the land of everlasting mystery, the most peaceful place in the world, and a vast new territory not on any map. He said it was an area as big as the U.S., never seen by a human being, and the most valuable and important place left in the world for science. Prior to another expedition, he said, "This is the most important expedition in the history of the world." And the one he repeated the most was, "It's the center of the great unknown." These are mysterious when you consider that he's referring to either a large mass of ice or a land mass covered with ice. Even if he were speaking of the military significance of this place, To call it peaceful and mysterious are hardly the words of a strategizing military officer. So we must conclude that as one of the nation's highest-ranking military leaders, he was also sworn to secrecy. These statements raise the question, was Byrd upholding his vow to secrecy for national security while being just truthful enough to share information that would allow him to abide by his principles of integrity? In February of 47, Byrd, the one man who has done the most to make the North Pole a known area, made the following statement: "I'd like to see the land beyond the pole, the center of the great unknown." Millions of people read this statement in their newspapers or heard it on the radio broadcast. Did they look at their globes? What land was he talking about? If you look at the map, calculate the distance from all the known lands near it, and none of them are within 200 miles of the pole. In fact, Byrd himself called it no known land, that after 1,700 miles, he said he hadn't reached the end of it. He should have been back to civilization, right? But he wasn't. He should have seen nothing but ice-covered ocean, or at the very most, partially open ocean. Instead, he was flying over green, lush areas, including lakes and mountains. It was already published that he had discovered 2 unknown land areas measuring a total of 4,000 miles across, and yet, instead of receiving notoriety like Christopher Columbus, his story disappeared. Was Byrd trying to say what he knew without revealing it outright? Was anybody paying attention? To add to this confusion, in 1956, the editor of Flying Saucer magazine, Ray Palmer, wrote a detailed story on Byrd's discoveries. Apparently, however, as the issue headed to press, they mysteriously disappeared. And strangely, the printing plates were found badly damaged, so a reprint couldn't be done. Some other interesting, indisputable facts about the time were that, up to this point, there had been a few books published about the North Pole having entrances into the Earth. Another thing was that Byrd was accused of lying in effort to receive credit for being the first person to the North Pole, an accusation that seems somewhat inconsistent with a man of his character. Another thing that Byrd shared was that the poles are concave, not convex as thought, and that the South Pole is 10,000 feet high, whereas the North Pole is 10,000 feet low. It was well documented that there was a large spike in temperature as he approached the pole. But one of the biggest mysteries involving Byrd may have happened right after World War II with Operation High Jump. While it was said at the time it was an expedition to Antarctica to find coal and other resources, that story later changed to training military personnel and establishing a research base. Being the first person to the North Pole, an accusation that seems somewhat inconsistent with a man of his character. Another thing that Byrd shared was that the poles are concave, not convex as thought, and that the South Pole is 10,000 feet high, whereas the North Pole is 10,000 feet low. It was well documented that there was a large spike in temperature as he approached the pole. But one of the biggest mysteries involving Byrd may have happened right after World War II with Operation High Jump. While it was said at the time it was an expedition to Antarctica to find coal and other resources, that story later changed to training military personnel and establishing a research base. In the meantime, you can't help but wonder why either mission would require 33 aircraft, 13 Navy ships, and almost 5,000 soldiers, and mysteriously result in loss of lives. Leaks later revealed that the true mission was to retrieve the missing Nazi leaders from their refuge in Antarctica. But Byrd cut the 8-month mission short after what the Chilean press reported as troubles with many fatalities, though the event was clearly downplayed in the U.S. Following a military-aided evacuation, the force returned. Their stories immediately became classified as top secret, but inevitable leaks revealed that there were attacks by highly advanced saucer-shaped airships. The Secretary of the Navy, by this time the Secretary of Defense, James Forrestal, started to talk. President Truman forced him to resign, and he was soon taken to Bethesda Naval Hospital's psychiatric ward, where he was prevented from seeing or talking to anyone, including his own wife. When this high-ranking man was found dead, of course, it was ruled a suicide. Case closed. Another strange thing is in 1947, following the sudden end of his military expedition, Byrd spoke with a reporter for the Chilean newspaper El Mercurio and told him that he didn't want to frighten anyone unduly, but that it was a bitter reality that in the case of a new war, the continental U.S. would be attacked by flying objects which could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. This is where Byrd's posthumous diary comes in. Though he remained faithfully silent, albeit mysterious, shortly after his death, his son published his diary to reveal a very different account than what the public had been told. It started like this. I must write this diary in secrecy and obscurity. It concerns my Arctic flight on the 19th day of February in the year of 1947. There comes a time when the rationality of men must fade into insignificance, and one must accept the unavailability of the truth. I am not at liberty to disclose the following documentation of this writing. Perhaps it shall never see the light of public scrutiny, but I must do my duty here for all to read one day. Hopefully, the greed and exploitation of certain of mankind can no longer suppress that which is truth. Byrd then continued to unveil a picture that we had not imagined in this diary. He said that he traveled the master, whom he described as delicate and ancient. They were told they'd been allowed to enter, despite these invisible barriers, because of his high moral and ethical character. The ruler went on to say that ever since the U.S. had dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, their race had been very concerned for human safety and the survival of the planet. When they intervened, however, their craft had been attacked by our militaries, and Byrd was asked to share this message and warning to civilization. Their hosts then guided them to their plane and back to the outer world. In closing, Byrd said he briefed the Pentagon of his message from the master, was interviewed intently by top security forces and a medical team, and ordered to remain silent in regard to all that he learned on behalf of humanity. Incredible is all he could call it. He concluded, I'm reminded that I am a military man and I must obey orders. 10 years later, he wrote a final entry. These last few years elapsed since 1947 have not been kind. I must state that I have faithfully kept this matter secret as directed all these years. It's been completely against my values of moral right. Now, I seem to sense the long night coming on, and this secret will not die with me. But as all truth shall, it will triumph, and so it shall. This can be the only hope for mankind. I've seen the truth, and it has quickened my spirit, and has set me free. I've done my duty towards the monstrous military-industrial complex. Now, the long night begins to approach, but there shall be no end. Just as the long night of the Arctic ends, the brilliant sunshine of truth shall come again, and those who are of darkness shall fall in its light. For I have seen that land beyond the pole, that center of the great unknown. Needless to say, this is an extraordinary story from an extraordinary man. Would Byrd's own son publish false information that would defame his beloved father? Or did Byrd himself falsify all this story in order to make a cruel joke of his life and legacy? Whether or not you believe this story, his influence, moral stature, and valor can hardly be argued. The esoteric Tibetan teacher, Djwhal Khul, or DK, during life channeled information from his location in Tibet to Alice Bailey in the United States, whom he later met personally. Even after his death, Bailey continued to receive information from this enlightened spiritual teacher, called the Messenger of the Masters, committed to world service in the healing of humanity. DK confirmed that Bird did indeed travel to Inner Earth as he claimed, that there's a sun there, but not like our outer sun. He said that the aurora borealis was not caused by this, but by a different light source, and that the openings of the poles were very wide and ships and planes could fly into it. However, a yet unknown energy field will camouflage it and naturally protect it. He confirmed that there were entrances to the Inner Earth in Egypt, Tibet, and the Yucatan, and also added that there were other entrances in the Bermuda Triangle, the Soviet Union, and Africa. He said that there were different races in the Inner Earth, just like on the surface, and some of them quite tall. He also confirmed the U.S. government and other countries are aware of the Inner Earth and are covering up the fact as they are the UFOs and extraterrestrials. Another man, Dallas Thompson, appeared on Coast to Coast Radio. He was a personal trainer in California who, during an out-of-body death experience, had revelations of Inner Earth. After his recovery, he became an avid researcher, intending to find and travel the hole that Bird said to have entered at the North Pole. In 2003, after months of planning, however, he mysteriously disappeared. Finally, the most notable whistleblower of the secret space program, Corey Goode, has given consistent and extensive details on Inner Earth. Among his claims are that there is a huge population currently living in Antarctica, that the United States is not the only nation that's created underground bases that are inhabited by thousands of people. Corey Goode has shared that the Mayans were not defeated, but in fact retreated to the Inner Earth. He claims that the Mayans have crafts which appear to be rock, but they look like long cigars, cylindrical in shape. Goode's description of the Mayan craft are not unlike this one, which entered our solar system from a distant galaxy not long ago, and has since been recorded as speeding up. He also notes that there are many people channeling what they believe are Pleiadians, but those are in fact Inner Earth beings protecting their location by claiming to be off the planet. Goode also said that disclosure will be an earth-shattering event, but a necessary one, and he implores everyone to see the Earth as a maternal living thing, inviting us to seek a deeper relationship with our planet. In our drive for power, resources, and control, we become disconnected and impartial to the effects our choices have on the balance of nature. In conclusion, perhaps you hear these stories and can only hear legend. They're just too fantastical to be true. Suspend your disbelief for a moment, however, and other tales start to make more sense. The explanation of Earth's strange magnetic anomalies and its shadow zones. It explains the thousands of mysterious crafts, including the many which have been witnessed shutting down nuclear weapons. That they could be right under our feet, not coming from some distant place in space. It explains the obsession with Antarctica and the complete denial by governments of all unidentified flying objects. It explains the omission of the poles in satellite pictures, the laws preventing one from flying over them. It explains the disappearance of hundreds of thousands of Germans at the end of World War II, and even the survival of the human race throughout what Mayan calendar claims was 4 Earth cataclysms. The Earth has many mysteries, and you only need to turn on the series Planet Earth to marvel at how little we know from our perspective. After all, remember, it was only a few hundred years ago that humanity believed you would fall off the end of the planet if you sailed away too far. Exploring the science and the stories about a hollow Earth has revealed far more information than we could possibly share in this video. We hope you'll continue to investigate the topic yourself. In the words of Richard Feynman, the famous quantum mechanics physicist, if you thought that science was certain, well, that's just an error on your part.
What's one thing in your life that truly allows you to express yourself?
to sing.
I love to dance.
To rap. Okay. Let's do it.
I am not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts.
You can put your mind and do whatever you want to do. Just tell yourself that you're capable too. But don't do things that ain't even cool. And get rid of them no good friends that's enabling you, making you feel like you won't be nothing. Your life crumbling, they talk mumbling. You gon' be something. You are glorious. We're no gangs but warriors. We well known, notorious. They can't stop you or block you or mock you. They mad cause you bad and they not you. You fall down but get up and skip and hop through. Kick down doors for others to walk through. You have a purpose to make you say, did I do that? Urkel. Now we callin' reality virtual. This is who I am, this is me. Don't let them words hurt you.
When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send a flag, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me.
Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. Another round of bullets hits my skin. Well, fire away, 'cause today I won't let the shame sink in.
We are bursting through the barricades and reaching for the sun. Yeah, that's what we've become. I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us.
Oh, we're going up.
When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me.
I'm alone, I never fit the mold. The world is so cold, hold it down on my own. I'm just trying to reach up to the sky, see the moon. I got confidence 'cause I'm the flyest in the room. And I've been knocked down, but I always get up. I had some fake friends, had to go and switch up. Yeah, no pain, no strain. I ain't chasing all the fame, 'cause I got more to gain and I'm just trying to make a change. I'm just doing me, I'm in my own lane. I fell down a few times, but I'm up again. Marching to another drum, see me crawl, see me run. When they thought that I was done, nah, here I come. I'm not weak, I get on my feet. No apologies, yeah, this is me.
And I know that I deserve your love.
There's nothing I'm not
When the sharpest words gonna cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. This is brave, this is bruised, this is who I'm meant to be. This is me.
No apologies, yeah, this is me.
Whenever the words go, whenever the words go,
and the blood gonna drown them out. This is me.
actually going to have to move it, period. But this is going to be switched to back over there. Anyways, let me show you that. But that's going to be for when I do the sigil I'm preparing for right now. But since I just did 2 videos, I'm going to wrap it up with a third to say that just, to just be, don't be anything, do whatever you want. But I'm going to be starting that video very shortly, the sigil, and I'm going to do the candle. Previously already did. Anyways, pointless to talk about the same shit over and over again. But, so, what I want to say is that, everything I was just talking about, fucking from, Palladians and reptilians to the whole drug affinity. People have, a gravitational pull to doing drugs. Sometimes it's not even because they have a bad past. Like I said, my parents are probably the greatest parents you could have. Obviously, they're flawed. Everybody is. But, as far as childhood goes, I had a great one, and I still got pulled into doing drugs. And my sister, growing up as a polar opposite of me, I don't even think she swore. Like maybe around 16, she might have said shit and stuff like that, but not often. She never felt the need to swear or want to swear, whereas I was type of would swear as soon as I could. And way to kill this person. Then you get a premeditated charge. But whenever it's inspired and impulsive due to something you weren't supposed to see, and then you come into this light and knowledge that the person you thought you loved and were going to marry, or maybe you were married to, or is dating, has just the ultimate open invitation. Anybody wants to send me a message, comment, you want to do it unanimously, you can always send a text. The phone number, I think it's on YouTube. It's definitely attached to my speaker account. My Gmail is on here. It's attached there. It's attached to my speaker account. Just Corey, period, LeBlanc. 4 1s for 11/11, which my birthday is the 11th of May, which adds up, 5 and 11 is 7, great number, but, Corey.LeBlanc1111 is the best way to, send me a message there. My phone number is attached to my webpage. My webpage is, ceremonialwitchcraft.com, and I think between the 2 words, I don't know, I can't remember if I hyphenated it or not now. I think it's just all one word. Anyways, but if you hit the call or the message on there, I don't normally get it. This is not working right, or if it comes through as something weird through the WhatsApp. So, anyways, big fucking problems I got. But seriously, anybody needs to talk about this, or if they have a loved one who's fighting with drugs and they want to understand maybe a little bit more why the person does what they do, I'm more than happy, and I would welcome a chance to try to describe their angle, because people who have an addiction issue, they could have all the great intentions in the world, but once they get high, or they need to get high, or whatever the case is, because their body's craving it, and it's like these urges just take control of you, then sometimes it's hard to understand why someone who loves you says they love you. Maybe they want to marry you. Maybe it's your child. They do everything for you one day, and the next day they're totally gone. They have no soul. They'll steal and do all these terrible things. Maybe you need to understand that a little better. Well, I can shed a little bit of light on why that happens, both from a psychological, biology, chemistry level, and from the actual point of view of the addict, and why they seem to be so cold sometimes, and it's not necessarily the truth, but they're very afraid and scared, and obviously don't want you to know that, and try to pretend everything's okay, and they know if they just get high again, everything will feel okay. But anyways, so if anybody needs to talk, or wants to talk, or is curious, or has any questions, by all means, there's one thing I know is learning from our experiences is something we should all be sharing with each other. Not forcing upon anybody, but helping and learning and growing and sharing together. Because, something somebody else has already been through that you're going through could be a lot easier if you have their knowledge. That whole saying, well, if I only knew then what I know now. Well, here's how you know now when you're in the then. Whenever you're in the present moment and you need the future knowledge, how do you get future knowledge in the present moment? Well, you ask somebody who's already been fucking through it. And when someone's already been through something, you now have future knowledge in the present tense, which is perfect, which is what you need to do. It's what everybody needs to do. That's what learning is it not? When you go into school as a kid, technically, you're learning from people who already went to school, which qualifies everybody to be a teacher, not just teachers, but teachers are more so qualified because they learn how to present the curriculum in whatever specific way they want to present it, and how to deal with children, and so on and so forth, whatever the reasons are. But point is, someone who's already done a job can teach you how to do the job. And that's how people train you for a job. That's how you learn to go to school. That's how your parents teach you how to do dishes and other chores around the house and how to babysit, shit like that. It's because they know how to do it, because they've done it, and they're teaching you how to do it. You're getting the present, you're getting future knowledge that you need for the present now. And hopefully, in most cases, you get time to learn this thing whenever it's not rushed. But in some cases, you get shot just in the moment without the knowledge. And then you have to work on your feet or improvise or whatever the case is. And that's where you need your intuition to come in. But we don't need to be working on intuition if there's people that already have present knowledge that can shed light on things. But when someone's shedding light on something and it doesn't feel right, if your intuition is screaming at you that this isn't good, don't be listening to this dude. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Or it could not even be that. It could be your intuition telling you to not listen to this yet because you're not ready for it. So it doesn't always mean somebody's fake. Like I said a long time ago, I was going to start a YouTube channel and just got picking out the fake spiritual people from the real spiritual people. And then I'm like, wow, who justifies me to be able to do that fucking job? Who says I know the fucking ultimate way? Like I was going to say, here's 10 signs that you know someone's fake, and like just stupidity. You know what I mean? And I realized that was just something that I need to work out. And now I would never dream about doing that. And now I came on here and told people my opinion of what I think fake information is and why it's dished out. But I try my best not to say names unless I really think someone should stop watching somebody, or if they've already been called out on said thing. But to be honest, I try to stay away from that. Like I said earlier, it's easy to start a fucking conspiracy. Like I said, the 2012 Olympics, I'll put the link below for that video, and it's in my playlist as my watch playlist. I'm definitely not going to like that video. And here's a caution I'm going to give you before watching that. I can't tell you if it was a fucking mass ritual using everybody's energy and putting it into a virus, killing everybody, or trying to make everybody sick, or whatever the case is. But if there is such a thing as that, if there is powerful groups that can do that, which I'm not going to say there isn't, because how can I know that? And in all honesty, I've seen this power be abused before, so it's definitely likely. And the way they set that thing up, I watched the whole opening ceremony for 2012. It was like almost 4 hours long. It was the whole British Industrial Revolution that leads up to right now, where everybody's getting sick from this virus, almost like saying we caused it in some sense. Anyways, it's very, because I needed some context, right? I saw all that. I saw the whole pandemic thing, and pandemonium was kind of was what they actually called it, which is kind of a weird thing. What's a pandemic? Well, when you add pandemonium to panic, and you get a pandemic. But it was pretty, it was enlightening to see that, because I needed to know, like, okay, well, maybe this is out of context. Maybe what's playing out here doesn't have anything to do with the coronavirus, and there's some play or something involved, but not so much the case. So check it out for yourself. But be warned, if you're not a magician, if you're not a practicing witch, and even if you are those things, that's great. That means you're using protection, you're doing lesser banishings, you're taking back your mind. So you are in semi-control of your mind. So you're fine. But anybody who's not, don't watch this. There could be an egregore attached to it. There could be a thought form attached to it. There could be anything attached to it. For all I know, today, everybody getting sick, everybody dying from coronavirus, everybody who gets it versus people that don't, could be everybody in the world who watched that fucking thing, who watched that show when the 2012 Olympics happened. Could be one of the reasons why barely any kids get sick, because not too many of the kids were around in 2012, you know what I mean? And if they were, they definitely weren't watching the opening games of the Olympics. I'm just saying. But this is how you start a conspiracy, because right now it's 2012 in Ethiopia. This game's happened in 2012. Everybody who watched it could be getting sick, or they could have released this ritual, putting energy into this virus, and after 8 years of collecting enough energy, it's now strong enough to take over people's minds to the point where no one can stop it. Except for people that practice magic, who are magicians, who know thought forms and are at the level of creating a thought form and not at the cause. Sorry, that's the thought form's a thought cause. It affects you, and effectively your effect is you getting sick. So meaning someone else causes something for you to get sick, which is the effect. Whereas I'm at the cause. Something like that can affect me. This is one of the biggest benefits of practicing magic, of doing the law of attraction stuff properly, though, not just trying to will stuff into your mind all just hunky-dory, thinking about something a lot consciously and thinking it's going to happen. Well, that's not what you do completely, and that's what I go over on this channel. That's what I'm trying to teach specifically, and telling you the additional practices that protect you and keep you safe and speed up the process and make things work better for you and give you the discipline to only manifest things when you want to manifest things and not just think about something in the moment when you're possessed by one of these forces, planets, gods, whatever you want to call them, whenever you're in a very loving state and you decide you want to give all your money away to somebody and the next day you got nothing to fucking live, or whenever you're all pissed off because someone fucked you over and you wish death onto somebody and something bad doesn't happen, because that can even come over a practicing magician. But hopefully when the practicing magician or witch is in a well, neutral, balanced state, they created programming in their mind that they only manifest things in a certain state, in a certain place, at a certain time, with certain specific criteria present, and any other time it cannot happen. And this way you only do what you want when you want it, not whenever you think you're in control when something else is in control. That's why these things have been deified. That's why these things have been personified, because all these spirits, all these energies, all these deities, all these things that the planets, Venus being love, Mars being your passion, but you can be full of rage too, and passion comes with rage. What's a crime of passion? Well, it's when you're so much filled with rage because someone you're passionate about that you thought you loved fucking stabs you in the fucking heart while you fucking sucking some other guy's dick or eating another girl's pussy, and then you end up killing them. You get a lighter sentences because of it, because the courts even know that these fucking forces can rule us instead of the other way around. Most people are ruled by these forces, and they do not control these things. The only way to get some kind of control, because you probably can't have complete control, but anyway, to get some kind of control over the elements, over the planets, over the forces that make us up. Got these 7 forces throughout your body, probably way more, but this is like the first level of understanding. 7 forces throughout your body that rule you, from Pisces to Aries, feet to head, okay? From Jupiter to fucking the moon or sun or whoever you think is your top chakra, it doesn't matter, but and you get to pick that if you want. Don't make sure it's backed up by some sound reason, but those things rule you, and depending on how you feel, what thoughts you allow into your mind, they can bring you down a path that you don't want to be, or bring you down a path you do want to be. Energy is just energy. They want to feel some kind of polarity. So you pick what you want to do. You pick the polarity, the route you want to go on. You get to pick, not these things. But the court system understands that someone can see something like that, and the passion part of their body can turn into rage and want to kill the person that just stomped on their heart, spit on their fucking heart, pissed and shit on their fucking heart, and it makes them kill you. So you get a lighter sentence because of that, because killing is not killing. Killing is still killing, but it's on a whole different level whenever this comes into effect. It's not premeditated. It's just not out of, sitting in your own, stewing in your own fucking pissed off anger, jealousy, rage, and insufficient fucking capabilities to do what the person you're jealous of is doing, even though you could, and stewing in that and thinking, using all your creative energy to think of a way to kill this person. Then you get a premeditated charge. But whenever it's inspired and impulsive due to something you weren't supposed to see, and then you come into this light and knowledge that the person you thought you loved and were going to marry, or maybe you were married to, or is dating, has just done the ultimate worst thing they could do to you. And so therefore you are almost justified by killing them. Obviously not, because you still go to jail, but they understand that this force is something more than a human is capable to deal with. And I'm saying no, it is if you're uninformed. But there is a way to deal with it, and it's through what I teach and everybody else I promote teaches. Everybody's working. In this day and age, no one is fucking working from Which is another thing I need to talk about because, you know, in this day and age, no one is fucking working from home. Everybody's working from fucking home and shit like that. People are kind of wondering why this shift is happening. It's like, well, for the last, I don't know how long, but because of the different things I watch on YouTube, every ad that plays, maybe every 2 out of every 3 ads that play for me, or I can't believe people are still working in this 9 to 5 grind, something to that effect. And from like a multitude of people. Well, you think that's getting in enough brains that that's not going to change something? You know what I mean? It's not a coincidence that most people are working from home right now. It's not a coincidence. Not when that shit's playing over and over in people's heads. You know what I mean? So if you aren't working from home and you want to, now is the time you program yourself, but you'll have it within fucking probably a month. I'm telling you, it's not hard in this day and age to start something from home. There are so many online things you can fucking do and work from home if you're just willing to put in, you know, a month of building up whatever money, work, whatever. And then, you know, you can do like 3 different fucking things and make a paycheck just as good or probably even more than what you're making. It's not hard to do that in this day and age whatsoever. And, you know, there's a link, man. The things you watch over and over again, those ads that play for fucking 5 seconds before you get to skip them, what the first words you hear? I can't believe people are fucking working in this 9 to 5. That's enough time right there. That's only been 3 seconds that I've been saying that. And most of them say even faster than that. And that's getting in your head every time you watch 1,000 videos. Let's say 900 of those have a fucking ad at the beginning because they almost all do. Well, that's 900 times a day. You're hearing that when you're focused on something else. So where's that going? Come on, you know that by now. Right into the subconscious fucking mind. Like, to everybody's subconscious mind, simultaneously being programmed that we shouldn't be working. And look what's happening now. Coronavirus took over. Everybody's at home working. Not everybody, I'm just saying, you know. Time to make that shift. Might as well. If you don't want to go back to your job, if you like the time home, bud, do your mind a favor. It's trying to find the fucking path of least resistance to you working at home right now. Just fucking connect the dots for it, you know. Let it do one thing your subconscious doesn't have to do. Go out there and find a way to work from home. Anyways, it's not what I'm talking about. I started off talking about Palladians, and then I jumped onto this big drug tangent. And I don't know where I was going with that, but I guess, anyways, I think I'll just leave it at that because I think I said enough. But yeah. Palladians and reptilians, we have both these capabilities. We've been seeing it in sitcoms, at least my age group. I've seen it. You watch fucking Family Matters or Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or you know, Roseanne, Home Improvement, whatever the show was when you were a kid you were watching. At some point, you saw that little angel and that little devil on one of those characters' shoulders that looked like them, or an adult figure for maybe the angel and another figure for the devil, but nonetheless, you saw this polarity paradigm play out, and they were their middle pillar in between the positive and the negative fucking poles. You've seen that duality everywhere. It's within your mind, okay? This is programmed into you. So if someone wants the spirituality to be like Christianity, or if they want spirituality to resonate with you, wants you to switch your spirituality, but they want to get into your mind, it's something that's familiar, what are they going to do? They're going to take a star system that's not of Earth, that you resonate with. They're going to take another star system that's not of Earth, but is like the demons, like the devils, like the bad side, the negative, plus the positive, and they're going to sell you that idea. They're going to tell you, hey, this is what spirituality really is. Those Christians got it wrong. So it's not angels against devils, it's Palladians against reptiles. Like, come on. It's the same fucking bullshit over and over and over again. Telling me that the reptilians destroyed every world they ever had and they're after our fucking world. Come on. If there's a reptilian group out there, they might have more negative flaws than positive flaws, but nobody is all one or the other. You got more bad, well, you still got some good in you. Or you got way more good, you still got some bad in you. That's the best of us and the worst of us. And if you are one way more than the other, you might need to strive to go the other way. Because if you are almost all good and only a little bit of bad, then you're probably being taken advantage of. And you need to grow some teeth and become the other way a little bit. So you do something for yourself for a while. And if you're more bad than good and you've been taking advantage of all these other fuckers that are more good than bad, then you need to fuck that shit off and stop fucking being such a cocksucker and fucking do the other way and let people walk over you a little bit. Pay back some debt karma. Simple as that. These things, this polarity bullshit, us against them, Reptilians against Palladians, fucking Christians against fucking Satanists, Illuminati against everybody else, like, it's bullshit. It's stupid. It's not real. We make it real. We create our reality. And the more people sell you this, the more your mind believes in it, the more it's possible. The more it can happen. The more it's gonna happen. Don't buy into that shit. It's not fucking real. It's only real if we make it real. And, you know, we can argue that's what's been happening, that we don't have this evil versus good paradigm, where people are love and light, and then all of a sudden this happens, so now we're all cut off from each other, and, you know, there's so many ways this could be perceived, and, you know, not many of them are going to fucking do you any good, so there's not really a point focusing on them. You know, you want to make money and stay at home and all that, well, get that figured out first and then start becoming a philosopher. Maybe go back to school for philosophy or something. I don't know. But sitting at home trying to figure out where the universe went wrong so you can try to fix the universe, well, you're going to have a lot easier time fixing yourself if you want to fix the universe. You're going to have an easier time to be able to one day fix the universe if you can honestly look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? Fuck what these people are saying. I am qualified to help fix the planet and the universe because I was successful in putting my life back together, putting myself in order, doing my self-transformation. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. But if you can't control your household, yourself, your family, you know, if you have trouble going out in public, any of these things, but yeah, you want to have opinions online of how we should change the world, well then, you're not really qualified in my fucking book. Because, you know, how do you prove you can change the world? You can't really, because even somebody who's done all those things, they haven't been able to change the world yet, or else. No, but sitting at home trying to figure out where the universe went wrong so you can try to fix the universe, well, you're going to have a lot easier time fixing yourself if you want to fix the universe. You're going to have an easier time to be able to one day fix the universe if you can honestly look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? Fuck what these people are saying. I am qualified to help fix the planet and the universe because I was successful in putting my life back together, putting myself in order, doing my self-transformation. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. But if you can't control your household, yourself, your family, you know, if you have trouble going out in public, any of these things, but yeah, you want to have opinions online of how we should change the world, well then, you're not really qualified in my fucking book. Because, you know, how do you prove you can change the world? You can't really, because even somebody who's done all those things, they haven't been able to change the world yet, or else they would have changed the world already, right? Or something to that effect, someone's going to say. So they're technically not even qualified for that. But in my eyes, I would listen to somebody like that way more than I'd listen to myself or some other fucker from his basement. You know, some random voice online on a blog or on a fucking video, you know, showing you what they want you to see that the camera can project. Right now, you just see the top, but this new car probably has dirt on the floor. Oh, no, it's not too bad. Oh, no, see, there's a few things. Like, so, I'm not the cleanest fucking person in the world. And you only see what I want you to see. I'll make this part look good, and the rest of it can go to hell, you know? That's what everybody can do from their fucking webcam, their camera, their fucking whatever's showing you. They're going to show you what they want you to see, what they want you to believe. They're not going to show you the real them. But just be careful of this paradigm, this fucking good versus evil shit, this fucking Palladians versus reptilian shit, this fucking predictive programming, Illuminati's trying to kill us shit. The Illuminati was a group a long time ago, and they were disbanded. Does that mean there isn't secret services, secret societies that are doing some bad shit behind the scenes? Probably. There's a video I watched recently of the 2012 Olympic Games and the beginning. Actually, I don't get scared easy because I don't buy into this shit, but man, I got chills. And it looks like they're trying to. Now this guy was some Christian guy saying the rapture's about to happen, the Nephilim are about to come, they're coming for your children, 5G is the real cause, coronavirus is fake. And this is predictive programming that was going to happen, which I think is kind of cool because this happened in 2012 at the 2012 games, and he's saying that it was a ritual performed to do coronavirus, and it kind of looks like that, but you know, I don't really buy into that shit, but fuck man, wow, it's fucked up, but it kind of looks like that. That's what they were trying to do, and yeah, right now it's 2012 in Ethiopia, and this is the year we're having this coronavirus happen. So was this something 8 years ago they tried to bring on 8 years ago and it didn't work? And then all of a sudden now it's 2012 in Ethiopia, so maybe it's really 2012 in our world, and some that are down the line, our fucking calendar got hiked up 8 years so that they can do predictive programming for a year in the future and then fuck us over. Who knows? It's not hard to start conspiracy, like I said, guys. I'm going to start one right now. Coronavirus was a predictive programming ritual done in the Olympics in 2012. Go watch that opening ceremony. It's on my channel where the Christian guy did all the work for you, putting it together. It's gonna fucking probably give you nightmares, though. It's not scary in the sense of, ooh, scary demons going around trying to kill all the children, which happens, by the way, which is fucked up for an opening ceremony of the Olympics, I gotta say. My wife watched it, she's like, what does that have to do with the Olympics? She thought I was showing her some random thing, and I was trying to connect the Olympics. She's looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, I don't know, babe. This is the opening ceremony at the 2012 Olympics. She's like, really? I'm like, yeah. She's like, what does this have to do with the Olympics? I'm like, it doesn't. It's fucking a bunch of kids becoming orphans, and the nurses dancing around like fucking crazy people, like they are today, and becoming robots, and then a big mass egregore, the Harry Potter dude comes alive, and there's one girl he's trying to eat, and then there's a giant at the end of the whole thing, but a bunch of demons come out, affecting everybody with oh man, it's just fucked. And there's this virus hologram that looks just like the coronavirus on top of the fucking stadium that keeps popping up. Like, it's weird. Weirdest thing I've ever fucking seen. And if there was ever a time to believe in mass programming or Illuminati shit, it'd be fucking there in Britain, bud, where the Queen was in attendance. That reptilian old bitch. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. I don't know. I think she's a reptilian, but man, sometimes she fucking looks like one. But anyways, sorry about that, Queen. She probably done way more for people than people know. But at the same percentage, she's probably done a lot of bad shit, too, for people they don't know. And that's one secret, guys. If you want to get away with anything evil, do some good too, and then you'll even your sides out and you'll keep getting away with it. That's how these billionaires get to keep getting more money, by raping and pillaging fucking people, because they donate to sick people, they help poor people, they build houses for these fucking people. You can't do that kind of good for somebody and someone have love and gratitude in their heart and thank you and send you praise and all that shit. Well, then you can get away with a certain amount of fucking evil and bad because you did a lot of good. You got people that hold you in their hearts in the highest way, that are praising you like a fucking god, like Zeus, like the Christian God, like Jesus. Well, there's no way you're not going to have a bunch of good fortune. You pay something for it, you get it returned, man. That's why they get this shit. So anybody who's rich, who's doing well, that you think is Illuminati, well, you might want to think again, because things get paid forward that you pay forward. And I said this before, anybody out there who's like mocking the hospital system, I get it in this day and age, the pills and all that shit, I get it more than most, so I know that, but not all doctors are evil, and not all of them know what they're doing. They're taught something in school, and they go out and they try to help people, man, and they give back. They have to give so many fucking free hours of their service. You would not work for fucking free, yeah, you're ready to pass condemnation and fucking and start judging the medical staff and get mad at the nurses whenever it takes you 4 hours in the hospital. You know what I mean? It's not right. Don't do it. You're not doing yourself any favors. You're doing yourself fucking the opposite of a favor. You're fucking yourself over. It's not going to help anything by judging these fucking people and thinking they're all fucking evil when they're doing more for the community, giving their money, giving their time to help people. Like, literally help people, whether they know they're doing more good or bad, or they know they do or don't know that you can fucking fix stuff in your mind and it'll fix stuff in your body. Who knows? But most people today don't even know that, so why would the doctors know that? You know, they're just trying to do what they think is right. So stop judging them. It's not their fucking fault. You gotta start thinking that way about everybody. If people are ignorant, it's not their fault. It shouldn't even be considered ignorant because it's got a bad connotation. But it's not their fault. They don't know what you know. And who knows if what you know is even right? Who knows if what I'm saying is fucking right? No one knows. No one knows. I do know, though, you feel a whole lot better when you start doing the shit I'm doing. And it was able to keep me off of the drugs for a while. You know what I mean? And I'm still off of it. Because the Suboxone that I take loses its fucking novelty. It loses its ability to want you to stay off of the drugs. You know what I mean? Like, for a while, you're good, and you're like, yeah, I want to stay clean. But if you don't replace that habit with a habit, you're fucked. You can't get off of shit. You know, that's the secret. That's the real secret. You want to get off something, whether it's any addiction, you got to replace that habit with a new habit. And hopefully it's a constructive habit. Because if it's not a constructive habit, then you can't get rid of it. You know, when I met my wife, I was able to stop doing different types of dope and shit that I was doing back in the day. Because I've always had this affinity for drugs. But I replaced my wanting to do drugs with the fucking high you get when you first fall in love. But when that wears off, not that I don't love my wife anymore, but the whole honeymoon stage wears off, well, then it's back to doing the drugs. So then I get on Suboxone and I try to get off the drugs. But then after a while, that wore down and I wanted to start doing it again, even though I was on Suboxone. And then I found this shit. I was able to stay off of it. Now I've had a few here and there, little fucking slip-ups way back when, not anymore. But, you know, in all honesty, it helps me stay off this shit and it teaches me how to stay off of it and what I need to do to stay drug-free and all that. And it's just programming your mind, you know, but that's the point, you know. This shit seems more real than the other shit that's not real yet.
White lips, pale face, breathing in snowflakes, burnt lungs, sour taste. Lights gone, days end, struggling to pay rent, long nights, strange men. And they say she's in the class A team, stuck in her daydream. Been this way since 18, but lately her face seems slowly sinking, wasting, crumbling like pastries. And they scream the worst things in life come free to us, 'cause we're just under the upper hand on global grams. And she don't wanna go outside tonight, and in a pipe she flies to the motherland, or sells love to another man. It's too cold outside